Imagine being pulled over for nothing, then accused, insulted, and threatened just because of your race. Now imagine the police officers laughing, thinking they've won. But they don't know they just arrested the wrong woman. A woman with power, connections, and the courage to fight back. This isn't just a story of injustice, it's a story of reversal, of consequences, and of truth rising where lies tried to win. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe to the channel, hit like, and stick around because you're about to witness justice unfold in the most unexpected way. They began to escort her away through the murmuring crowd toward a less crowded area. The handcuffed girl, head held high, walked between the two officers, a searing image of injustice right at the gates of Bayview. None of the onlookers, nor even the two officers, knew what a terrible mistake they had just made. They had no idea that the woman they had just insulted and handcuffed was Amina Khalil, the sister of the most powerful man in the city. Just half an hour earlier, officers Colin Grant and Brian Lowe had been patrolling the busy international terminal of Besia. It was their afternoon shift and the air felt slow and drowsy. Grant yawned, scanning the traffic. "Damn it," he muttered. "Nothing interesting. Tired tourists and cold-faced businessmen." Lowe chuckled. "Be patient, Colin. Airports are gold mines if you know how to exploit them. Just keep an eye out." He glanced around, eyes scanning the crowd like a hawk. "Look for rich-looking people, especially those from oil-rich countries. They tend to carry a lot of cash and don't know the rules here. They're easier to negotiate." Grant got the idea immediately. "Yeah, those random checks. Made good money last time," he said, recalling when he stopped an Asian businessman months ago, threatening him about the currency declaration requirement, then letting him go for $500 in cash. "But be careful. Getting caught is deadly." Lowe grinned. "Don't worry, just do it smart. Pick the right person. Who would make a scene at the airport? Especially foreigners they just want to get through safely." Just then, Flight EC 357 from Dubai announced passengers were starting to collect their luggage. Grant and Lowe automatically headed toward Carousel 4. That area was often crowded with passengers from the Middle East and Asia. There, Lowe nudged Grant and nodded toward a woman in a navy hijab waiting by the belt. "Look at that. Those clothes aren't cheap. Ramoa suitcase, that bag looks familiar. Bottega Veneta. Definitely some oil princess." Grant squinted. The woman looked unusual and, in his opinion, like an easy target. "She looks good," he agreed. "Looks tired. Easy to handle." "Exactly," Lowe laughed. "Find a reason to check her papers. Then suspect contraband, take her to a private room. Guaranteed to get at least a few hundred, maybe $1,000. They waited for the woman to get her suitcase off the conveyor belt, then approached, starting their pre-calculated drama. The confrontation went exactly as planned, but the woman's reaction was off script. She didn't appear frightened or confused as they had expected. So what if she's an American citizen? Lots of terrorists have American passports, he thought, his prejudices ingrained. He flipped through the passport, looking for anything suspicious, but found nothing. The Dubai visa was valid, the entry and exit stamps were clear. Still, he began deliberately asking provocative and racist questions. "Where you come from, do people hide contraband in luggage? Gold, gems, or something?" he asked sarcastically. Amina looked at him with an expressionless face. "Officer, I don't know where my place is. I'm American, born and raised here. I've only been married and living in Dubai for a few years now." "Oh, married," Lowe interjected, her voice soft. "What does your husband do over there to be so rich? Aren't you scared to leave him alone like this?" Amina did not answer the personal question. "I repeat, do you have any valid reason to keep me? If not, please let me go. My family is waiting for me." Seeing that he couldn't sway her with innuendos, Grant decided to get straight to the point. He lowered his voice, trying to sound sympathetic. "Listen, Miss Khalil, right? Long flights are tiring, and everyone wants to get home quickly. We don't want to make things difficult for you. It's just a formality." He paused, glancing around to make sure no one was watching too closely. "We can flexibly skip this annoying check if you cooperate. Consider it a quick fix fee, it's not much. Just $1,000 in cash, quick. No one knows. You can go now." Amina looked Grant straight in the eye. This time there was not only calmness in her gaze, but also clear contempt. Her voice was steady but cold as ice. "Officer, what you are doing is extortion. I have done nothing wrong. I am an American citizen and I know my rights. I will not give you a penny. If you want to search my luggage, follow the proper procedure. Invite your superiors or take me to the official inspection room. And I demand that my lawyer be present. The blunt refusal, the fearlessness, and her calling it blackmail left Grant and Lowe momentarily stunned, then instantly angry and humiliated. Their plan for easy extra income had just collapsed. Amina's defiance only fueled their abusive instincts. Enough. Grant shouted, voice cracking with rage. You've had enough. You're under arrest for obstructing an officer and resisting a search warrant. He turned to Lowe with a glare. Put your hands on her. Take her to the security room. That's when Lowe moved in, using force to subdue the woman who dared to challenge them. The sound of handcuffs clicking shut colonnaded the end of Amina's temporary freedom, but it was also the beginning of a storm that would soon come crashing down on the two corrupt officers. Amina was escorted down a quiet hallway to a gray metal door colonnaded airport police security. The room inside was barely 10 square meters small, dim, and furnished with a metal table, a few plastic chairs, and an old landline phone. The air was stuffy and smelled faintly of mold. Grant shoved Amina into one of the plastic chairs, her hands still cuffed behind her back. Sit still, he growled. Let's see how long you can last. Lowe leaned against the wall, arms crossed, grinning smugly. See, I told you. Keep fighting and now you're stuck here. You might miss your little family reunion. Amina said nothing. She sat up straight, eyes locked on the wall ahead. Her silence seemed to make the two officers even more uneasy. I want to make a phone call, Amina said suddenly, her voice calm but firm. By law, I have the right to make a call. Call? Grant sneered. Call who? Your imaginary lawyer? Or call Dubai and cry to your husband? I want to call my brother, Amina replied, ignoring the sarcasm. It's my right. You have no authority to deny it. Grant slammed his hand on the table. You can only call when we say you can. Just then, the door creaked open. An older man in an airport security uniform poked his head in. He had salt and pepper hair and a kind face. Everything all right, officers? He asked, glancing at the handcuffed woman with concern. It's nothing, Mr. Mendoza, Lowe replied quickly, waving him off. Just a routine incident. Go about your business. Mr. Mendoza hesitated, his eyes lingering on Amina's eerily calm face. Then he nodded and quietly closed the door. His brief appearance seemed to unsettle the officers. Grant and Lowe exchanged uneasy glances, realizing perhaps that their actions weren't as discreet as they'd thought. Amina repeated her request, this time even more clearly. I demand to make my legal phone call right now. If you refuse, it will be another violation. Grant stared at her, searching for any sign of fear but found none. Her composure only irritated him further. Grant felt a vague sense of unease. He didn't want to drag this out any longer. Maybe letting her make a pointless call wouldn't hurt. Fine, he snapped, shoving the landline toward her. Call your brother. Let's see who he is, and if he can get you out of this mess. He had no idea that this call would call in the beginning of his and Lois' downfall. With her hands now cuffed in front, Amina struggled slightly to lift the phone. Grant and Lowe watched with annoyance and mockery, assuming this was a desperate bluff. Amina held the receiver between her shoulder and chin, fingers trembling slightly from the awkward position, carefully dialing a number she had memorized long ago. After a few rings, a professional voice answered on the other end. Bayview City Mayor's office. How may I direct your call? The air in the small room suddenly turned heavy. Grant and Lowe froze. Amina spoke into the receiver, her voice calm and clear, loud enough for everyone to hear. This is Amina Khalil. I need to speak to Mayor Michael Rahim immediately. I'm being held at the police security room at BSC International Terminal. It's urgent. Silence followed. The only sound was the hum of the overhead fluorescent lights. Grant and Lowe exchanged glances no longer smug, but filled with confusion and fear. Mayor Rahim. Grant stammered, attempting a nervous laugh. You're kidding, right? Do you think we're that stupid? Lowe went pale. The smile vanished from his face. He knew Mayor Michael Rahim wasn't a name to joke about. The man was a powerful, respected leader with a reputation for integrity. Amina didn't reply. She calmly placed the receiver down and sat upright. Her eyes focused ahead. Her silence made the officers even more nervous. Is she insane? Lowe whispered. How did she get the mayor's direct number? Who knows? Grant muttered, but his voice wavered. Maybe she was bluffing. But deep down, fear crept in. The name Khalil, her poise, the expensive look, something wasn't right. He had never heard of the mayor having a sister, but what if it was true? The question lingered. 10 minutes felt like an hour. Grant paced the room anxiously. Lowe leaned against the wall, sweat collecting on his brow. Amina remained silent. That silence was louder than any threat. Then came the sound of footsteps, heavy, urgent. Voices. Commands. The door burst open. Mayor Michael Raham stood in the doorway. His usual warm expression was replaced with icy anger. His sharp eyes scanned the room. Behind him was Chief of Police Henry Mason, his white hair contrasting with the deep red of fury on his face. His glare pierced through Grant and Lowe. They were followed by several aides and senior police officers, all tense and silent. Mayor Raham's gaze locked onto the handcuffed woman. The sight of Isla sitting handcuffed in a chair triggered a flash of pain in Mayor Raham's eyes, but it was quickly replaced by fury. He turned to the stunned officers. What the hell is going on here? He demanded, his voice low and powerful. Grant and Lowe stood frozen, mouths agape, all arrogance gone. And Mr. Mayor, Grant stammered, we were just doing our job. There was suspicion. Chief Mason stepped forward, his voice thunderous. Is it your job to handcuff the mayor's sister as she gets off a plane after years away? Is it your job to racially profile, insult, and try to extort a citizen at an international airport? His words landed like bombs. Grant and Lowe gasped, their eyes darting from Ela to the mayor in disbelief. The truth hit them hard. They had made an irreversible mistake. The mayor ignored the two men and quickly approached Ela. Ela, he said softly, filled with concern, are you okay? I'm so sorry. Then, turning to a nearby officer, he said, Lieutenant Evans, uncuff her now. Yes, Mayor, Evans replied, hurrying over to unlock the cuffs from Ila's wrists. Ela stood slowly, rubbing her red wrists. She took a breath, raised her head, and stared directly at Grant and Lowe, still trembling. Her gaze was cold, but now carried a glint of triumph. Tell me everything, the mayor said firmly. Ela calmly recounted the entire incident, how they had approached her without cause, insulted her religion and ethnicity, demanded a $1,000 bribe, and violently handcuffed her when she asserted her legal rights. Her voice was steady and clear, every detail sharp and damning. Each word felt like a blade. Chief Mason's expression darkened further. He turned to the officers. Name. Badge number. Officer Colin Grant, 714, Grant muttered. Officer Brian Lowe, 822, Lowe stammered, avoiding eye contact. You're both suspended immediately, Chief Mason declared. Turn in your weapons, badges, and ID cards now. He nodded to the plainclothes security nearby. Take them to the department. Internal Affairs will begin a full investigation. Grant and Lowe were speechless. Stripped of their gear, they were escorted out in silence, their faces pale with fear and regret. They couldn't even meet Ila's eyes as they passed. The door closed behind them. Mayor Rahim turned to Ila and gently placed a hand on her shoulder. I'm truly sorry. Your homecoming was supposed to be joyful. Ila gave a small smile, though her eyes remained strong. It's okay, Michael. What matters is that people like them are held accountable, not just for me, but for everyone else they could hurt. Chief Mason stepped forward and bowed his head. Ms. Khalil, Mr. Mayor, I take full responsibility. I assure you this matter will be handled transparently and legally. No cover-ups. Ela nodded. I believe you, Chief. I'll fully cooperate and give a detailed statement. The tables had turned. Amina Khalil, once the victim of injustice, now stood as a symbol of accountability. The first battle was won, but the fight for justice was far from over. That same evening, the Bayview City Police Department launched a full-scale investigation. The Internal Affairs Division treated the case as top priority due to its impact on public trust. The next day, Amina Khalil returned to the station to give a formal statement. Calm and composed, she detailed every part of the incident: time, place, the officers' words, their attempt to extort $1,000, and the force used to handcuff her. IAD collected sect footage showing Grant and Lowe confronting Amina and violently handcuffing her. Though there was no audio, The video confirmed her account. Witnesses, including an airport security officer and several passengers, also testified. Personnel files showed both officers had passed complaints reinforcing concerns about bias. Within days, IAD concluded that the officers had committed serious misconduct, abuse of power, racial discrimination, extortion, and unlawful detention. Chief Mason approved their termination and forwarded the case to the district attorney. In a press conference, the chief publicly apologized and promised reforms. District Attorney Sarah Jenkins, after reviewing the evidence, filed formal charges against both officers. The charges included 1. Extortion, demanding $1,000 from Amina to avoid inspection. 2. Unlawful detention, handcuffing and detaining her without legal basis. 3. Abuse of power using police authority for personal gain. And 4. Civil rights violations due to racial motivation. The incident of airport police blackmailing the mayor's sister drew widespread media and public attention, sparking debates about racism in law enforcement and the urgent need for accountability. 3 months later, the trial began at Bayview District Court under Judge Anthony Cole, a respected black judge. The courtroom was packed with media and concerned citizens. Granton Lowe looked visibly shaken and anxious. Amina Khalil, the key witness, testified calmly and clearly, giving detailed and consistent answers under both direct and cross-examination. Her professionalism made a strong impression on the jury. The prosecution presented strong evidence: Amina's account, Mr. Mendoza's testimony, airport sect footage, and the officers' past disciplinary records. They emphasized the racial targeting and the danger of such misconduct in public service. The defense tried to downplay the incident as a misunderstanding under pressure, but their arguments were weak. The officers' testimonies were inconsistent and unconvincing. After 3 days, the jury deliberated for less than 4 hours before returning with a verdict. The jury foreman stood up and announced the decision aloud in the silent courtroom. The jury found both officers guilty on all charges: unlawful detention, abuse of power, and civil rights violations. They sat in shock as the verdict was read. Amina Khalil exhaled deeply. Justice had finally arrived. At the sentencing, the judge condemned their actions, stating they had betrayed their oath and damaged public trust. He emphasized that no one is above the law. Both were sentenced to 7 years in prison. Handcuffed again, they were taken away not as officers but as criminals. The verdict sent a strong message across the city: racism and abuse by law enforcement would be punished. In response, the police department launched reforms: mandatory bias training, improved oversight, and a civilian review board. The police chief and mayor publicly apologized and promised lasting change. Amina stayed in Bayview for a few more weeks, attending public events with quiet strength. In a brief statement, she thanked the justice system and expressed hope that her case would raise awareness and lead to a better, fairer future. Amina didn't dwell on her personal pain but focused on justice and change. She wasn't just a victim, she was a strong woman who stood up for what was right and won. During her remaining time in Bayview City, she reconnected with family, shared warm meals, and cherished old memories. When she returned to Dubai, she left not only as a daughter of the city but as someone who had faced injustice and brought accountability. Her flight home felt different: no fear, just peace. She had faced a painful ordeal, but she overcame it with strength, calm, and courage. The story ended clearly: the corrupt officers were punished, justice was done, and change was set in motion. For many, especially older viewers, it was a satisfying story of truth and dignity prevailing over racism and abuse. 1 week later, the incident was still the talk of Bayview City. Community centers hosted open forums on police reform, and local leaders quoted the case as a turning point. Residents who had once felt voiceless now felt seen. Amina's name became a quiet symbol of resilience, not a celebrity, but a reminder that ordinary people can spark extraordinary change. 1 month later, reforms began taking shape. Police oversight committees were strengthened, new ethics training was rolled out, and anonymous reporting systems were launched. Most importantly, more citizens stepped forward with their own stories once buried under fear. Amina had returned to Dubai, but her impact stayed behind. Her silence in that interrogation room had spoken louder than any protest. And now, that silence was echoing into something bigger, a new beginning. 3 months later, Bayview City looked different, not in its skyline, but in its atmosphere. Officers now wore body cams by default. New recruits were trained with an emphasis on de-escalation, civil rights, and cultural respect. Community trust, once fragile, began to mend. Students discussed the case in schools. Advocacy groups referenced it in meetings with city officials. The story of what happened at the airport became part of public consciousness, not as a scandal, but as a catalyst for real change. 1 year later, the case was studied in law enforcement academies across the country. Amina's quiet strength had become a bench column in training materials, how one citizen's calm resistance exposed a broken system and helped reshape it. Though she lived far away, her name was often mentioned with respect in city halls, classrooms, and civil rights forums. And for Bayou City, her story remained a reminder of what justice can look like, when people, no matter their background, stand their ground with dignity. This story is not just a personal victory, it's a wake-up call to an entire system. We've learned that real power isn't in a badge or title, it's in integrity. What do you think about this story? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. As for me, this is proof that justice, even when delayed, can still sweep away the darkest corners. Let's share that light together. If this story moved you, hit like and subscribe, because tomorrow we'll tell you another one you won't want to miss. Note: this story is entirely fictional and created for the purpose of raising awareness. It highlights issues of responsibility, justice, and the importance of treating everyone with respect and dignity. We firmly oppose violence, prejudice, and injustice in all forms. Viewer discretion is advised.